Hello everybody and welcome to my live stream on Thursday 8 p.m. again. Here I am. Welcome, and tonight we are going to speak about something a bit special, about a story or something I experienced in my career a long time ago. And so again, as usual, this is a live stream, so this is about interaction. Please feel free to say anything you want in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on it and make my best to answer or react or whatever. So, I hope we're gonna be having some fun also tonight. I'm gonna show two games of mine, which were played more or less 15 years ago in the French league, and actually something very special happened on that weekend. Back then, the French league used to be played over several weekends, and that weekend was I think the second weekend of the whole season. Probably something like 4 games were played back then. And actually in the last 2 games of that weekend, that must have been on a Saturday and on a Sunday morning, I faced 2 players in very strange circumstances. They were grandmasters, they are still grandmasters of course, and in fact, the games were very special because when I came, I actually played for the club in Mulhouse back then, and my opponent was Vladislav Tkachev from the Cannes chess club, back then one of the favorites in the league. And we played on board 1, and Tkachev came to the board a few minutes late, and I could immediately see it from his face, smell it from his odor. He was drunk, and so I wondered what was going on, because I don't think I had ever played anyone drunk before. I couldn't really tell how much he had drunk in the night before, but it was clear that he was not fresh at all from all points, not at all voluntarily entered into his opening preparation, something he had prepared, probably not for that game in particular, but in general. And I fell prey to his novelty and then to his very nice prep. And strangely enough, even though he was drunk, he played really well. It was not, the whole game was not preparation, but he got a very good position after his preparation, and then he followed through and crushed in what feeling it had been in that weekend. So I'm going to tell a few more things about this, but of course let's state before I even start looking at the games, and I'm also going to repeat it afterwards. By no means am I encouraging anyone to drink here, so I'm against any alcohol consumption, be it at the chessboard or in general in life, of course. But of course this story, I mean, is something very particular, because playing a game of chess, a serious game of chess, which counts not only for yourself, but also for your club, for your team, and your opponent is drunk, well, that's something very, very special. But also, this is not a first time in the chess world that that players appeared slightly inebriated at the board. You remember, you've heard stories about Mikhail Tal, for instance, the former world champion, who used to be ill from very early on in his life, and he actually didn't really care whether he would burn life from both sides, and he sometimes was drunk. I know a story. I wasn't there, of course, because that's the year I was born. That was in 1976 at the Biel interzonal tournament where Tal participated. Back then, the interzonal in Biel would be played in the same venue as now, in the Congress Hall, just a bit older because it's been renovated since, but the structure of the building was the same, and back then the Congress Hall would remain open the whole night through. So not like nowadays when it closes like at 9 or 10 in the evening and opens on the next morning at 11. It would be open through the night, And even though the Interzonal, one of the most important tournaments on the circuit for someone like Mikhail Tal, was certainly a contender to qualify for the further steps of the World Championship cycle, Mikhail Tal would be seen almost every night playing what was called Vodka Blitz. That is, he plays a blitz game against an opponent. There were many Yugoslavian players back then who liked playing blitz. They've always liked playing blitz and contra and blitz games for money and so on. And that was the Vodka Blitz. Was basically you play a blitz, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 3, maybe less minutes per game, and the winner of the game has to drink a shot of vodka. So Mikhail Tal, with his unbelievable level, but also his incredible skills at blitz chess, he would win the first games, and of course he was a heavy drinker, so he would be used to it, and he would drink his few vodka shots until he would start feeling the effects of alcohol, and his opponent would win one game or two, and having to drink as well, then Mikhail Tal would take the lead again. I mean, in all sense, in all senses of the word, and he would win a few games again, and so on and so forth for the whole night. So I don't really know how many bottles of vodka they would drink every night, but in the end of the tournament, actually Mikhail Tal played very decently, and that's the most amazing thing, which I can't really understand it, because I've never ever tried to play chess even with just a drop of alcohol. So imagine many bottles of vodka like this. I can't even imagine how they could feel and what they would see. But their level, their class in chess was so high, people like Tal, that it would certainly affect his capacities, but not to such an extent that he would play bad chess. He had the feeling for chess. He knew how to put his pieces, the harmony. So he actually would play decent chess. Anyway, classical chess. I'm not speaking here about blitz games, because they probably only mattered for fun. But and this is something I actually felt when I played against Kachev and the next opponent on the day after, that even though they were clearly, not in good shape, and they played well, and I can't understand. I've never wanted to try. I repeat it, and I don't think I will ever try. But I can't imagine myself playing normal, decent chess, being drunk. I mean, I'm not even speaking of a glass of wine or like this. But so well. Let's see what you have to say. I don't know if you have ever tried playing blitz games or normal chess with a glass of wine or something, or if you've ever experienced playing against someone who is drunk. So we'll see. Yes, I was given odds probably. Okay, Rafa, hello. I hope your dogs are doing okay and that you could walk them through the park. Everyone is doing okay. So you are only 18, so I mean, as I repeated once again, I'm not encouraging anyone to drink, and I'm just telling a story which happened to me, and talking a little bit about these strange things. I'll let you participate and interact with the chat, and probably I will start by showing the following game then, which was played as you can see in April, almost exactly 15 years ago. And this is my game. I was black against Tkachev in the French league, and an important game for the team. This was board 1, and he went for a3. I can't really remember what was his main opening, what were his main openings in his repertoire against this before, but I remember for sure that I was surprised by his opening choice here. But nevertheless, I went for my usual weapon here against a3, so I'm black, but I'm still showing the game from the white point of view. Here he plays queen c2 immediately, which is a slightly, well, let's say it's more or less a sideline, and compared to the c takes d5 line, which is the core of the Petrosian variation against the Queen's Indian, when we can take back with the knight or with the pawn here. And there are other options for white, like bishop g5 or queen a4, well, some moves. And queen c2 is definitely one of the alternatives here. But it's theoretically supposed to be okay for black. I took on c4, which is a very, you know, principled answer here. And now the normal move is e4. When black answers with c5, normally there is d5 here. Takes. Now it's not really possible to take on d5, it's too dangerous. So we play bishop d6, bishop takes c4, castle, and actually we have this very typical pawn structure where basically black is doing more or less okay here, and this was what I had more or less prepared. But this move bishop g5, which he decided to try, was a part of his preparation, and it's actually a pawn sacrifice, because now black is going to hang on to the pawn, and he's gonna have a pawn up. He's gonna be a pawn up, and white is searching for compensation. So a6. Well, actually, this d takes c4 to answer Rafa here. Well, it's not the only move, of course. Just to say it. I mean, you can certainly go for for bishop e7. That's certainly decent as well. Bishop e7 or other moves. But yeah, d takes c4 is actually a way to try and take advantage of white's sixth move, queen c2, for not allowing. If you play bishop e7, then basically you're going into this pawn structure. You can transpose here to the normal things with c5 afterwards. But it's also possible to take advantage of that, because d takes c4 is supposed to be and that is actually a good answer here to queen c2 immediately. So either now white goes for the main idea e4, as I said, or this slightly dubious bishop g5, which is nevertheless interesting, especially if you take your opponent by surprise, as it was the case for me when I played this game. I still played the good moves. I kind of remembered what I had prepared, more or less b5. And here, of course, the idea after e5, you go for h6, and white cannot win a piece. Bishop h4, g5, and well, black is going, you know, you can play knight takes g5, but black is going to be okay here after this. And now either knight bd7 or bishop e7. It reminds a bit of the Botvinnik system in the semi-Slav, just that we haven't played c6 with black, so that the bishop's diagonal is still completely open, which is very good for black, of course. So here, instead of that, he went d5, bishop e7, d takes e6, pawn takes e6, rook d1, queen c8, and if I'm not mistaken, I had taken a look at this even before this game, but I wasn't fully prepared. So I remember I had spent some time to reach this position, and here he didn't go for what I had seen previously, which was e5, when black is actually okay after knight d5, takes, bishop takes a7, king takes e7, bishop e2, and we can go back to e8 with the queen. And the king is actually not too much in danger on e7. There is no black squared bishops anymore, and I'm going to develop my knight very soon. I don't know, to c6 or to d7. Probably doesn't really matter, both seems to be good. And I'll be able to play queen g6 and bring the rooks a bit to the f file. It should be good for black, in fact. Well, instead of that, he went a4. And in this position, I remember I spent a lot of time to try and, first of all, to understand what was going on the board, but also to try and understand what my opponent was up to in view of his drunken state. When I remember that's also the main topic of this live stream now. Today I'm certainly going to show two quite interesting games as well, but my opponents on 2 consecutive days appeared drunk at the board, so it was Actually, not a pleasant situation. Of course, as you said here in the chat, I was given odds in a way, but it's not a pleasant situation. Well, it's not perhaps a very good comparison, but I like tennis. I like watching tennis. Unfortunately, I'm very bad at playing tennis, but I like watching tennis, and of course Roger Federer in particular. But I recall those situations when they're playing a match and one of the two players gets injured during the match. It may not be too serious an injury, but it still prevents him from showing his best and giving his best during the match, and sometimes it disturbs the opponent a lot as well, and because it's not a pleasant situation. You know your opponent is not in best shape. You don't really know if he's you know, how much hurt or how much drunk he is, so you don't really know in what state he is. Yet you know that people like Tkachov or my opponent on Sunday. I'll come to that as well in the next game. They're both from Russia, and Russian players are used, not all of them of course, but some of them are used to drink a lot, and still they do play chess decently afterwards. And it's not a pleasant situation. So I was certainly given odds in theoretical terms, but the situation was perhaps more unpleasant for me than for my opponent. So I remember I didn't really feel at ease too much there. In any case, it doesn't really explain the mistake I made in this moment. So black is actually, yeah, he's faced with some ideas, some threats by white. And here the pawn on b5 could be hanging at some point. But if I play b4, he doesn't have to move the knight, he can play e5 here. And I remember I didn't really like that. Well, if I take on c3, he can take on f6, but then my king is gonna be weak, and if I move the king, if I move the knight f6, then he has the square on e4, and this pawn will be hanging as well. It's not really good. Excuse me. And so actually the best move in this position, I don't know if I took it even in consideration during the game, but it was bishop b4 here. Excuse me again. So that's a good moment to check the chat. So yeah, I saw that. So someone is asking me, I can see the chat has developed quite well and faster than I could read. I don't know what's happening. So, are you going to participate? No, I'm not going to play in the Bundestourney next week. And actually, I can already say it now that next week we are going on a trip with my family, kind of a road trip to the Bretagne side of France. And after that, I'm going to play the French League. Well, we are in it again, but it's 15 years later. I'm going to play the French League as well in Brest. Yeah, quite a big city in Bretagne. So I'm gonna be a month off, and I can't promise that I'm gonna be able to make a live stream every Thursday at 8 p.m. because we're gonna we're gonna travel from one place to another, rent some Airbnb or rent some flats here and there. So I'm not really sure how the internet connection is gonna be there. So if it's all fine and I can set up everything, I might do something again, but I'm not really sure. So you might not see me for a while in a live stream, for a month more or less. During the French League, I think I'm not going to be able to do it anyway because I'll have to play. But before that, we'll see. In any case, I'm going to publish videos which I have prepared beforehand. So, of course, if you have subscribed to my channel, you're going to get notifications whenever a video is gonna appear on my channel. So just to say that, to answer the question about the Bundestourney next week in Switzerland, no, I'm not gonna take part in it. It's been, well, I can't really remember when I played there for the last time. Might have been somewhere like 95, 6, something like this. So it's a long time already. And yeah, we're gonna be on a trip, so we'll see. Gupta used queen c2. Oh no, he was taking on d5. Yeah, to be okay. I mean, there are many games in this Petrosian system, and it's still very, very popular nowadays for white. Quite an ambitious way to tackle the Queen's Indian, indeed. Good evening, Mark Cram. Victor Galvao, I'll let you do whatever you want at home. I'm not encouraging anything, I repeat it. Well, Omkar, they were free to do whatever they want. In a way, yes, but there is some, some sort of ethics which players should respect. And I believe that if a player appears to the board drunk, and noticeably drunk, of course, be it by the odor, by the behavior, noticeably, I think it may disturb the opponent, and ethically it's not alright. I believe that. And well, everybody is free to do whatever he wants, but of course then I can also do some noise at the board if I want. I'm free to do what I want. No, I'm not really free to do what I want, because I'm going to disturb my opponent, and I feel that if my opponent comes to the board drunk, then I'm gonna be disturbed. I might have some advantage in some sort of some sort, but I don't think it's alright at all, actually. Did I contact Bartholomew? Well, not yet. We didn't really have a match at the time to talk, but that would be certainly something, yeah, to play a blitz match, or kind of blitz match with this man on here during a live stream, and he would be on his live stream, I would be on my live stream, and we would play some chess and talk, maybe trash talk a bit. Yeah, that's certainly going to be something. I've already some plans about it with some other people, but doing that with Mr. Bartholomew from the United States, I think would be a good thing. Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Mark Cram. I'm doing better now. So the French League, to answer Warmau, whom I believe is new here, so welcome on my channel, it's nice to see you. The French League, it's actually, I think in most countries you have this team competition, clubs play against each other, and to determine the French champion in this case, or there is a league in Switzerland, or probably in most countries. And there was this French League back then, and you can have different sort of you can organize that French League in different ways. In Switzerland you have isolated games, one game every Sunday, once or twice per month, 9 rounds in total. In France, when I played these games in 2003, you used to have 3, or I think there were 3 phases of 3 and 4 games respectively, so in total 11 rounds. So it was quite a nice variation. I liked it. It was not spread over too many weekends, but also, compact enough so that you get to know each other and also people from the club. So, it also allowed some sort of nice atmosphere among players with club officials and so on. And nowadays the French League is organized very professionally in one phase, in one tournament, so 11 days in a row, like a normal tournament, just teams, so that more people are there. Well, actually many people are there, and nowadays I think it's 12 teams playing against each other, so 11 rounds, so you have many people, around 10 people per team if you count substitutes. So yeah, a nice event in any case. So French team, yeah. Rafa Chess, it happened to you on a game in Andorra. Yeah, it's pretty annoying, yeah. Drinking beer. Well, I don't know, but I think my opponents there had drunk all night and more than beer probably. In any case. Well, Bulent Kirza, thank you for taking part in the chat. We had some mail exchanges. I don't know what the arbiters say about this, but as long as they don't disturb the opponent too much by making noise, I don't think the arbiters can really intervene. Well, actually, Tkachev had a thing. I mean, it was mediatized. He played the tournament in India, I think. This must have been several years after we played that game, and he appeared to the board totally drunk, and well, he actually even I think he fell asleep during the game or so on, and he had to be evacuated from the playing hall. And this was, of course, then the arbiter organizers have to take some measures and forfeit him even, I'd say. Well, as long as he can walk and so on, of course, it's and move his pieces and write his moves, press his clock, well, do the normal things in a chess game. I think it's very tricky for an arbiter to intervene. I personally don't think it's nice. They should give him a warning or something, but it's difficult. Yes, I know Pierre-Alain Bay. I know him very well for many years. Yeah, from La Chaux-de-Fonds. Anit Chess 2000. So yeah, I know him well, and actually we played in the same team. He used to play in the Beal team earlier, and then I played for his team in La Chaux-de-Fonds. It was nice. He's a very nice person. He's doesn't play much chess anymore, as he has his job and kids and so on. So, but of course, yeah, nice to remind me of him. Thank you. So, well, I should have played something aggressive like the Dutch or the King's Indian. Unfortunately, it's not in my repertoire, so not really, yeah, not really my style. I mean, in general, you can. It's actually a very open question whether you should. If your opponent takes you by surprise in any situation by any means, like being drunk or playing an opening he's never played before, or there can be some other situation, the question is open whether you should stick to your guns and stick to what you have prepared, to what you know best, to what you feel best and where you feel more comfortable, or whether you should counter surprise him, take him by surprise. It's an open question. I would actually believe that it's if you don't really have anything well prepared, you should stick to what you know best. But as long as you can maneuver a bit in the realm of things you've seen or things where you know something, then it's certainly interesting to try and deviate a little bit. In my case, the King's Indian or the Dutch, there was no question about it. I didn't play it by then. And of course, when you play against someone as strong and experienced as Tkachev, I mean, if you play something you've never really studied before, he's gonna know it. I mean, he's gonna know something against it, for sure. I mean, he plays the King's Indian himself, and against the Dutch, he's certainly ready as well. So he's gonna take the surprise to another level by playing perhaps something, he knows but not too well, but where I certainly know nothing. So it's not really a good strategy. It wouldn't really work in that sense. So it is better to play boring chess against a drunk opponent to make him fall asleep. Yeah, probably. It's a good idea. It's a good idea, for sure. Well, actually, we're gonna speak a bit about this in the next game because it's also interesting. So anyway, coming back to that game against Tkachev, this bishop b4 here would have been better, and the position is still messy after the exchange on f6, and I've analyzed it a bit further, of course, for my preparation, but basically after bishop b4, black is okay. He's going to be able to castle. It's not easy for white to launch an attack against the king, even on the king side, so there black can certainly hope to be better. Instead of this, I played knight bd7, and things are not going to end well there. He took on b5 once, and perhaps he should have taken a second time here on b5. Objectively, this might have been slightly better. Of course, e4 is hanging, takes on c4, and I can play knight c5. And, well, my pieces are pretty well organized, and, well, he still has to complete development. Well, I also have to castle still, but position is more or less unclear here and balanced, let's say, complicated but balanced. Instead of this, he played knight d4. And here again, well, actually I made a big mistake here, because I actually don't remember, it's 15 years back, but I don't remember if I missed his piece sacrifice or completely underestimated. But in any case, what followed is basically winning for white. And I should have castled, and I should have given up this b pawn instead of trying to keep it. After knight d takes b5, I play bishop c5. Suddenly I'm very active. Bishop takes c4, I can play knight e5. Well, bishop takes c4 is not the best, but knight e5, and suddenly black is very, very active, and even better in this position. You can see that knight g4 is gonna come, f2 is very weak, so here not a good position for white. Well, I played b4, and very naively I believed he had to move the knight probably, but because these were times when I used to be good. You can see my rating is very decent, but I've always had this slight drawback in my play, that I tend to be how should I say it? I tend not to believe in these kinds of attacks, in these sacrifices. I tend to believe more in material than in energy, and well, I've grown up more careful nowadays with that, or against that. But back then I would be quite yeah, I had this tendency of not really believing in my opponent's attack, and it's cost me dearly in many games, and in this game as well, as we'll see. So here he sacrificed a piece. He didn't touch his knight c3. He played bishop takes c4. So well, I don't know. I don't think this was still his preparation, but I remember that up to then he played fast. So I don't know. Maybe it was preparation, maybe not. But he played fast and did there. I took the knight. What should I do? He took on e6 with the knight, and I can't castle anymore. And he's just very, very active. And as often happens in those situations, it's not easy to defend. And even if the position is even objectively worse for black, it's possible to try and hang on. Maybe rook g8 would have been better here. Queen takes c3, bishop d6. Still, after castling here, you can see that first of all, white has 2 pawns for the piece. I can't castle. Well, my pieces are, let's say, kind of coordinated in a way, but they can't really move because whenever they move, another piece is hanging, and white's play is very easy. I mean, it's going to play a4, e5, and yeah, my situation is not inviolable. Well, I decided to take on e4 here. He took on g7 check, king f8, knight e6, king e8. Of course, I would have paid to get a draw here, but he doesn't want it. He plays queen takes c3. Well, here, I mean, there are many. It's not easy to move for black. If I play queen b7, he checks and take on d7 when my position is falling apart here. Rook g8 could be tempting. He castles. So just taking a look at the chat, sorry. So some people were asking about a Bulent is asking how many participants here speak French, so that maybe we could make a French conversation. Some people are happy, of course I don't mind, but I think of course it's a live stream, but this is also being posted then on my channel, and unless I would announce it in advance and make a French live stream, which is certainly a good idea as well, I'm certainly going to finish this one in English, and why not make also a live stream in French one day and launch something like this. It's certainly an idea. So I can see that some people are quite enthusiastic about this. So yeah. Well, Omkar, I don't hate the King's Indian. I like to beat it. I like to crush it, but I don't hate the King's Indian. I'm not Viktor Korchnoi. So don't misunderstand my video series, when I am actually going to post a few more, of course. Don't misunderstand my, the title of my series on the Crush the King's Indian, because I don't hate the King's Indian. I don't hate any openings. I might like playing some of them, I might not like or enjoy playing others for some reasons, but I don't hate the King's Indian, don't worry. Just saying, just checking. But it's true that it's what I've said about not believing in my opponent's attack is certainly linked to my wish, my endeavor to beat the King's Indian as white, because of course I'm going for sharp lines, as you could see sometimes, and I don't really fear an opponent's attack, even though they are dangerous, and I'm fully aware of this. But it's true that somehow this is still coming back. It's like a disease which is chronic. It's even though you try and cure it and you take medicine against it, somewhere in the background it stays. So that I have this drawback in myself, which is probably more a drawback of my character than just a pure chess drawback. So it's true that. Yeah, probably I have this, and it remains somehow, and it influences my wish to beat the King's Indian, not to hate it. Yes, exactly, Victor Bilbao. I keep it in English for the moment, but of course, making another one in French would be something. And since I can see that maybe many people are actually French speakers too. Espanol, I could do it too, but. So just checking the chat. So knight c7 coming back to the game is of course a threat, and yeah, well, it's not the only threat, unfortunately. And the French defense, that's something else. And h6, yeah, could be an idea here. Well, he plays f3, h takes g5, f takes e4, castle. Well, I could play c6 to prevent that threat on c7, but rook fe1, and it's terrible. My king is in the center. Material-wise, he's not even doing too badly, but the game is no better. Rook b8 is basically, well, kind of preventing knight takes c7, but it's not really doing much. Of course, I'm threatening bishop b4, so he castles. I play rook g8, f3, bishop f5. Well, here many ideas. He could win the queen with bishop a6. Of course, he saw it, despite his drunkenness. I would take. I'm getting some pieces, but of course my king is still the main concern here, and black is basically hopeless. But he played bishop f4, which is very decent as well. Rook g6, knight takes c7, king f8, and bishop a6. Queen d8, well, of course this is torture for black. Bishop d3, of course he wants to deflect my bishop from the square e6 to get knight e6. Well, the best defense would have been knight h5, even though, well, here the computer shows something very brutal. Queen h8 check, rook g8, and queen d4. It's not an easy move to see, but it's a very strong one, and white actually keeps everything under control. He's already 3 pawns for the piece, and my king on f8 is just yeah, going to succumb soon. Well, I took on d3, sacrificed the queen, but of course it's hopeless. King e8, takes on d8, takes on f1, takes on b8. Everything is hanging everywhere, and bishop takes g2. There are not even big threats against, well, the king, so he played bishop g3, takes on f3, queen takes f3, bishop takes d8, king h1 simply, and here I'm just 2 pieces for the queen, and my king is still weak. He has a strong pawn, the b pawn, so of course it's not too early to resign, but yeah, not a nice feeling. Not a nice feeling in this game, but obviously I got completely crushed. There's no question about it, and so well, that was that's 6th round on a Saturday, and on the next day, on the Sunday, we played against a team from Montpellier, and I didn't play board 1. I played something like board 3 or 4. I can't really remember precisely, but we're gonna see it very soon. Here we are, launching the next game. So board 3, as indicated here, and my opponent is French, well, originally of course from Russia, Grandmaster Andrei Shtekachev. And there is a bit funny, well, funny, let's say a funny story also around this game, or even before this game, is that Shtekachev, well, he's also quite a heavy drinker, and he had pre-arranged before the game that he would play on a certain board and face Andrei Sokolov from my team. And they had pre-arranged a draw with each other. They had said, okay, we play board whatever, 4, 5, 2, I don't remember, and we make a draw. So, well, keeping this in mind, he went drinking the whole night, and with his friends, probably with Tkachev, and the thing is, his captain heard about this pre-arrangement, and he was not amused, did not agree with that, so he changed Shekachev's board, and Shekachev wouldn't face Sokolov, but he would be on board 3. So he didn't tell him, he didn't tell anyone, he just handed the lineup to the arbiter before the round, and it turns out, of course, that Shekachev didn't play Sokolov. So Shekachev appeared to the round, of course, thinking that he was going to make a draw with Sokolov, and he came drunk, of course, and searching for Sokolov to sit in front, and suddenly he notices there is already a teammate of his playing against Sokolov, and he kind of doesn't understand what's going on. First of all, he thought that Sokolov cheated him by changing board without telling him, and so he started being quite, aggressive against Sokolov, before he was told that no, it's not Sokolov's fault, it's his captain's responsibility that he's been moved to another board. So he came to the board 20 minutes late, completely drunk, and I have to face him after having been crushed the day before by Tkachev. Not a nice feeling, but of course, again here, in objective terms, I was, I was given an advantage in a way, especially since my opponent couldn't even prepare for me. Well, of course, back then the lineups were exchanged just before the game, so you wouldn't know the opponent much earlier and before. So I was not really aware I was going to play against him, but I could guess that it was a possibility. But he, of course, didn't prepare for anyone, for anything, and he just drunk the whole night. So we went, and let's see what happened in that game. Well, he played his usual King's Indian, which he actually plays really well. He has a very good feeling for the King's Indian, not just the typical attacks, but just the whole dynamic, even the positional ideas. So I mean, for those of you who play the King's Indian, I don't hate you and I don't dislike that at all. Not at all, but if you want to progress and when playing the King's Indian, there are always a few players whom you can take as model players, and well, generally it's good to take very strong players, like top players. Nowadays there are not too many anymore who play the King's Indian, but back then there were Kasparov and before that many others. But of course for some more, left 5 castle, knight a6, and I can see that I'm back there. Hopefully not too many disturbance again with the connection. I hope it's gonna be okay. In any case, I'm gonna proceed with the game, and against knight a6 I played bishop e3, and we played one of the main lines, which is pretty solid actually for both sides. So I hope it's still okay. I hope you're still there in the chat. Hope it's working all right. So just let me know. Let me know with a small message in the chat if it's all okay from your home. So yeah, Nakamura doesn't play. Yeah, he stopped more or less, and Rajabov as well. So not too many top players nowadays. Here he played f6, bishop d2, knight h6, and c5. This is a typical pawn sacrifice, which cannot really be accepted. It's very dangerous to take here on c5. We play knight d5 and hit c7, which is not protected anymore by the knight. And we're gonna proceed with rook c1, and there are many ideas like bishop b4. So this is too dangerous for black, and therefore he played c6. And of course this allows bishop takes a6, b takes a6, and the pawn structure is clearly better for white. He has the advantage in the center, little bit in the center towards the queen side. Yeah, unfortunate quality is worse. Yeah. Well, I hope it's gonna be okay now. I can see a green light on my live button, so it should be back to normal. I played queen a4, rook b8, b3, knight f7, rook a d1. This has been played before, but of course I was ahead on the clock. He played king h8, bishop c1. This is not a bad move, this bishop c1, because I free some squares and some files for my rook and knight, and especially this maneuver knight d2, knight c4 is a very typical maneuver here, because I want to enter to that juicy square on d6. Well, that's the moment he chose to play f5, and I started playing pretty badly here. I mean, my next move is still okay, but it's, I combined some moves which didn't really fit with each other. So if I wanted to play knight d2, I should have done it immediately. Knight d2, and if he plays f4, then I can play f3, and he still needs some time to organize g4 somehow, and I can use this time to enter with my knight to d6, and I can bother him a little bit in the center. So usually, if you've read Nimzovich book My System, he says that an attack on the wing is basically doomed to fail if the opponent controls an open file, a central open file, and here it's the case for white. If I manage to get my knight to d6, eliminate this knight from f7, I'm gonna enter as well with my rook there. I'll be able to double rooks, and basically I should be first with my activity. So I think white is quite clearly better here. If I play knight d2 immediately, my move rook d3 is still okay. Well, I didn't really believe that f4 could be any dangerous here. So I'm just checking the chat again. So I'm happy to see that everything is okay with the connection again. Yeah, it looks like. All right, so he played f4, and well, it's down on me that what he was gonna play, of course. So I went on with rook fd1. He played g5, and here I didn't really play too well, I think. I don't know, maybe bishop b2 first, h5, and only now going to d2 with the knight. Possibly this would have been better. I don't know. Or I also thought about playing knight h2, h5 and f3 to stop g4, but he can play rook g8 and he's gonna come pretty fast with bishop f8 and g4. And strangely enough, even though it's not a typical King's Indian from the pawn structure with the open d file, black's attack is still has to be taken seriously. Well, I played knight d2, and after g4 immediately, I was actually only expecting h5. After g4 immediately, black has already, you know, started his attack, whereas my own activity is still, you know, back. I'm still lagging with my activity here, and g4 is just good. I didn't really think it would be dangerous, so I took. It took, and here I had probably already caught up with him on the clock. He had played pretty fast. Well, just to answer Warmau, my queen on a4 is a bit decentralized. It's true. I wouldn't say it's really misplaced, because I have some targets here. I also keep his queen busy because I don't think he can afford giving up c6 until he mates me in a few moves. So, well, it's a bit double-edged. It's true that the queen could be more useful somewhere in the center, but it's not doing such a bad job there, you know, on the other hand. But yeah, it's true that black has already started his attack here with bishop takes g4, and you know, at first I had thought that f3 would just be fine, bishop e6, knight c4, but he goes rook g8, and his next move are not too difficult. He's just going to move the bishop, and he's going to organize some kind of attack on g file. Knight g5 may come, I mean bishop f8, knight g5, such ideas. And definitely more dangerous than it looks. You know, the queen can also come into play quite quickly. So I went back to f3, but this means that knight d2 was then not a good idea here. Well, here he actually started playing not well. He has a strong attack, and he could have taken on f3. If I take with the pawn, it's not going to be satisfactory, so I should take. He has knight g5 and then rook g8, and this is just a very strong attack, I think, for black, and it would have been very difficult for me. And all this against a guy who is really drunk. I mean, I was cursing myself for you know, and this is something which cannot be. They may not be alert, they may have bad nerves, but they still have the feeling on where to put pieces, and this shows actually really well in this game. And it's not just a few bottles of vodka which are going to prevent Shekachev from playing decent chess, unfortunately for me, in this game. So he went queen c8, maybe not the best, but still quite strong. King f1, rook g8, knight b1. Sad enough, I'm going to rescue my king. I want to go knight bd2 next and protect a few squares. Played rook b5, queen c4, and actually around here he made a big mistake. I mean, we were already like 2 hours into the game, two and a half hours into the game, and my opponent committed a crucial mistake. In fact, that he went away from the board for a few minutes and came back with a can of Fanta in his hand, and he started drinking avidly his Fanta. And somehow this restored in him some sort of ethylene balance, perhaps, and he started playing not as well as before. So basically this Fanta drink saved me, I believe, because as you can see, I managed to make a draw from that bad position, and I could really feel it that he drank that Fanta. He started feeling not well, and his moves were not as good. So, well, even here, if he takes on f3, I can take perhaps with with a pawn, and my king can find some sort of shelter on e2. Maybe the position is decent for white here. He played bishop e6, which is still okay. Queen c3, a5, knight bd2, and here the best move would have been the strange queen a6, you know, trying to hit the king from all sides, from this diagonal as well. He played bishop f6, when knight c4, rook takes c5. Well, here, well, I decided to play a move which seemed very natural, also for my king's security, but bishop a3 would also have been an option. Rook b5 and knight d6. Takes on d6, and my chances are quite decent here. So actually his mistake was more or less played on move 23, I think, when taking on f3 immediately would have been better than this. Well, here instead of this line, I decided to take on f4, using my pin here on the long diagonal, and especially important is the fact that my bishop will be able to retreat to g3 and protect my king. That was my intention. So, well, he took on c4, I took back, played queen e6, bishop g3. So now I'm safer there. He took on c4, take on a5, took on e4, I took on a7, he played rook e g4, and still his position is very menacing, and there was some time trouble here. I could have played queen d7, perhaps, you know, I'm able to secure an edge here after queen d7, but I played rook d7, which was worse than that. He went back to g7, king g1. Don't ask me to explain this move. It was probably time trouble. He played e4. He could have played h5, just, you know, using that strange move king f1. Well, he played e4. I played knight d4, queen g4, and here I should have played knight f5. This would have been the best move actually. If he takes, I can take on f7, and the position is more or less equal here. Instead of this, I took on c6, and I missed some things. Knight e5 here, very strong. I missed that idea now, and everything is hanging. My rook on d1 and everything is hanging, so I took here, give up an exchange. Queen takes d1 is the trick. I took, he takes, rook d6, rook takes g3. We've reached move 40, and I was not very happy, I remember. Well, objectively, I'm not gonna look at this game until the end, but of course, we're already more than 4 hours into the game, and my opponent probably didn't sleep too much at night. He drank too much, on the other hand. You know, he started becoming tired, and he didn't show the best technique afterwards. I mean, objectively, should still be maybe not completely winning, but at least very good winning chances for black here. Well, in the end, I managed to save the draw, and yeah, what can I? You know, I was pretty unlucky to fall into his preparation, and even after that, he played well. I mean, he killed me. But in that second game, Shekachev was not really. It was not a special preparation by him. He just got his position, and he played it really well until he drank his Fanta. And well, I mean, I could really feel some class in the play, in the chess moves. Not of course in the behavior, but in the chess moves I could feel some this typical Russian or Soviet class of chess, and yeah, unpleasantly impressive, let's say. And well, so yeah, what could I do? It's not a nice feeling, but not the best weekend ever. So well, I'm gonna check the chat, and yeah, I can see you guys saying that yeah, the connection was not good, lagging a lot. So I hope for the end of this broadcast it's gonna be okay now. So if you have any more comments or questions, I'm obviously eager to see that, read that, and answer this. We are certainly gonna end soon, but of course I'm always all ears and all eyes on the chat, just to see if you have questions. I don't know if you've ever experienced something like this, but it's strange. I don't, saw that afterwards, but I never really played against anyone drunk after these games. But I think 2 in a row were enough, actually. And but of course, those stories about what I told about Tal in the past, or Tkachov in India, but actually Tkachov also played in Biel 2002. Well, actually, there was this small story. It was even before this game I played in the French league. The year before, the previous summer, Tkachov played the Grandmaster tournament in Biel. He played really well, and he had this story of going out one night and don't really know what happened, but he got hit by some guy, and I had to play him on the next day. So he came to the board with such sunglasses, and well, somehow someone who had been with him on that night, a good friend of mine, Sviton, Grandmaster Sviton, he told me that Tkachov, he had a fight in a bar, and he has a big eye like this. It's not easy for him to play, and so I was white in that game, and well, I was let's say kind enough to offer him a draw after 10 moves in view of his eye, which well, was normal in a way. Well, perhaps not normal, let's say it was kind enough. But on the next day, Tkachov actually completely crushed Korchnoi in the same tournament, of course, and so I could see that his eye didn't disturb him when it was about winning with white against Korchnoi. So but actually, of course, this story made headlines in these typical newspaper in Switzerland, like the Blick or others, which are kind of scandals, looking for scandals and these stories. So he got his article in such a newspaper, and it made quite great publicity for the Biel Chess Festival. Not through the best ways, of course, but it's a bit typical in chess, actually, that chess only hits headlines in mainstream newspapers or even on TV when external stories happen, and not the game of chess for the game of chess itself. So it's actually a pity. Yeah? We can remember many stories when chess went headlines, not for the right reasons, be it FIDE scandals or other kind of scandals. So, well, one of these scandals made headlines in these newspapers in Switzerland back then. But of course, I decided to make a quick draw against Tkachov, because I thought he was not really able to play after being hit like this, and what to do. Well, I hope it's going more or less okay sometimes, but I can see, of course, that the stream is not very healthy. It's going from green to red and so on, and well, it's a pity that I don't really know why it happens, because the connection at home here is always good. We have this optical fiber and this very, very fast connection, so it shouldn't be a problem. I don't really know if perhaps it doesn't really depend on me, but or on my computer or connection, but rather on YouTube. It's not impossible. In any case, well, before ending, I'd like to repeat once again that I mean, this was more like a fun broadcast about a fun subject. Even though my games were not fun to be played, let's say, I mean, the subject is more fun, and I hope you had some fun as well and didn't take too seriously what I was saying. I'd like to repeat that I by no means do encourage alcohol consumption at the chessboard, outside the chessboard, whenever, of course. So I hope you enjoyed that live stream, this 16th already live stream, and I'm gonna keep you posted, of course, on my Facebook page, on Twitter, on whether I'm able to make a live stream during my trip, during our road trip, family road trip. It's not guaranteed again, because the connection may be much worse than it is here at home, and then it would be senseless to do something like this. In any case, I'm gonna post videos. Keep an eye on my channel, subscribe to it please if you haven't done so already, and I'm certainly gonna see you again soon, be it in videos or here on live stream. So thank you again, and cheers.